Oh, yeah. Is it Thursday already? This might just be the craziest day for Star Wars news. And I feel like I've been saying that for the last 2 weeks, but it just keeps getting crazier. Dave Filoni and Carrie Beck are now going to possibly be the co-presidents and replace Kathleen Kennedy. The Acolyte celebrates its 1 year anniversary with a slew of Star Wars fans coming out and saying they want a second season now. What happened? What happened to last year when we didn't want a second season? Also, we got some crazy stuff to talk about in terms of Star Wars Starfighter, the Ryan Gosling-led, Sean Levy-directed Star Wars movie. And if that wasn't enough, Andor Season 2 still keeps the party going. But we'll talk about that in a second. So without further ado, let's dive into all of it. What's up, everybody? How's everybody doing on this fine Thursday afternoon? Okay, so today is actually Kathleen Kennedy's birthday. So huge shout out to Kathleen Kennedy. Happy birthday to the president of Lucasfilm. But funnily enough, we'll be talking about her exiting the company. Probably not for good, obviously. She'll become like a producer or something like that, but she won't be the president of Lucasfilm any longer, as we are seeing the transition from Kathleen Kennedy to the next people who will be in charge. As Kathleen will, of course, not have the pressure of being the president any longer and taking the crap for all the mistakes and not getting any of the credit for all the good things that happened as the president of Lucasfilm. Now, we're going to be talking about Dave Filoni quite a bit today, because some fans online now seem to not like the guy. I don't know what happened, but some fans seem to not like the guy anymore. And we're going to talk about why he is the perfect, actually, this is the perfect situation entirely for the future presidents or co-presidents of Lucasfilm. So without further ado, let's say hi to everybody in the chat first before we get into this stuff, okay? Let's start out the stream right and say hi to everybody in the chat. Cole, what is up? Starship 66 in the house. 50 Thunder, how we doing? Ficone, what is up? Navarro, how we doing? Holly in the house. Your pal Joe, what is up? Carry on, how we doing? Tafari Tano, what is up? Nathan, how we doing? Darth Plagueis lives in the house. All right, you know the deal. If I missed you. Brandon Baker, what's up? How we doing? Entertainment fan, what is up? Adam, how we do? Okay, if I missed you, you know the deal. Just yell at me in the chat. Let's give everybody a nice little
Hello there.
General Kenobi.
So yes, we are talking about two very controversial things today. Not only the Acolyte and it's celebrating its 1 year anniversary and the possibility of seeing a season 2 and the possibility of getting the show renewed and more stories in that world with Chimera and Plagueis, etc., which is very controversial, to say the least. But we're also talking Kathleen Kennedy, another very controversial topic in the Star Wars universe, as many people really don't like the lady, even though she also gave us some of the greatest Star Wars content alongside some stuff that people don't really like too much. So we're going to talk about all this stuff. So just, keep it civil in the chat. Respect other people's opinions, just because they might not be the same as yours. Let's just keep it civil today. We don't need a war. We don't need the hatred. Because hate leads to anger. Anger leads to fear. This is backwards, but you get it. The dark side! The dark side. And we don't want that. So let's,
This is where the fun begins.
Okay. With that being said, let's dive right into this. So this big news of Dave Filoni taking over for Kathleen Kennedy comes in this gigantic article from The Hollywood Reporter. So one of the best sources that we have around makes this huge article about this shift in leadership in Hollywood. So many different studios right now are seeing this shift in leadership, from CEOs of different studios to all this other stuff. And Lucasfilm is one of those big studios that is seeing a very big shift in leadership. Kathleen Kennedy has been the leader of Lucasfilm for now 13 years, and she worked under George Lucas for even longer than that. So she's been with the company for a while, and let's just say she deserves a great retirement, or at least to take a step back and not be the person in charge anymore. So the conversation has been had for about the last 2 years now of who should be the replacement for Kathleen Kennedy. Now tell me in the chat, who do you think should be the next CEO, president of Lucasfilm? Tell me in the chat, do you want Dave Filoni? Do you want Jon Favreau? Do you want somebody completely different? You tell me in the chat. Because what we're getting here might just be the best option. It might be the solution that fans have been waiting for. But tell me in the chat. Me? Okay, Ficon, you can be the leader. You can be the leader of Lucasfilm. Sure. Why not? Why not? Nathan says, I'm not sure how I feel about Filoni being the president of Lucasfilm. I want him to create the content. Okay. You got a point there, and we're going to talk about that. My ideal choice would be Jon Favreau. Okay. Interesting. Doug Chow. We'll talk about him too. Greg, what's up? How we doing? How we doing? Filoni, I think, would be the best fit. I'm not, but I'm fine with either him or Filoni. Okay. To me, Jon Favreau, and we'll talk about him as we get into this Dave Filoni stuff, but he seems best fit where he is. I don't think Jon Favreau wants to be the leader of Lucasfilm by any means. He's done so many different projects all over the place. Like, he's not just the guy who made Iron Man 1 and came in and made The Mandalorian. He's done so many things before that, from comedies to Elf, one of the greatest Christmas movies. Elf is a Star Wars movie? Is that canon? Write that down. But one of the best Christmas movies of all time. So he's really got a very diverse resume, if you will. So I don't think he wants to be tied down to being the CEO or president of Lucasfilm. I don't think that's the role he wants. And honestly, I don't think that's the role he should be in. He's great as this director/executive producer role of the Mandoverse and focusing solely on making great content for us. Now, the same argument could be made about Dave Filoni, but let's talk about this. So first things first, let's read the news. Let's read what started this whole thing, this whole argument, or I guess conversation, lack there of an argument, online. So let's talk about this. This comes from the Hollywood Reporter, so let's read it. Again, this is a really, 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 really long article about all these different companies having switches of CEOs and all this craziness, and just, it's a lot. Like, look at how long this article is. Inside Hollywood Succession Wars. So this is just a bunch of, so yeah. We scroll down to the Star Wars stuff, the stuff we're here for. And that is this. That's, of course, Dave Filoni, and that's Kathleen Kennedy. If you don't know the faces, those are the faces to the names. Okay. Lucasfilm seems likely to follow the path in replacing Kathleen Kennedy, despite speculation about outside candidates, including former 20th Century Fox head Emma Watts. Insiders say the company seems most likely to promote from within. And that makes the most sense. We want people who have been involved with Star Wars to be in charge of Star Wars. We don't want somebody who has no idea what the hell they're doing coming in and just ruining the fun and ruining everything. So that's the best idea possible, to promote from within. The current thinking is a scenario where Chief Creative Officer Dave Filoni and production head, Carrie Beck, both Lucasfilm vets, take co-head roles, co-president roles, co-CEO roles. Even as an arm of Disney, Lucasfilm remains in many ways a family business. And as George Lucas's protege or apprentice or whatever you want to call him, Dave Filoni long has been considered a golden boy for Star Wars. But the knock against him is that it might be too steeped in Star Wars lore and risk steering a show into dense mythology that loses the broader audiences. As one insider says, he's not the Andor guy, he's the Ahsoka guy. And honestly, that's being sort of a jab towards Dave Filoni. I completely disagree. I don't think... Let's put it this way. If Dave Filoni's in charge of Lucasfilm, and somebody comes to him with the idea of Andor, he's not going to turn around and say, no, get away from me, gross, no, you, no. It's just not going to happen. He's going to go, that's a great idea, go do it. He doesn't have to be involved in every single project that happens. Actually, right now, he's not. He's the chief creative officer. That means he oversees all creative things going on at Lucasfilm, but he's not directly involved. He's not directing episodes of Andor or writing episodes of Andor. Same can be said about all other projects except for Ahsoka, pretty much. He did direct a few episodes of Mando and executive produced on Mando and Skeleton Crew. But he's not in Book of Boba Fett, but he's not writing and directing like he is on Ahsoka. So he's already in that position where he's overseeing everything, but he's not hands-on on everything. They've been training him or leading him into this role for quite some time, at least the last 5 to 10 years since Disney took over. So he's already been groomed for this role for a long time. Bringing him into live action with the Mandoverse, giving him his own show, giving him his own movie, and then giving him the company. So, yes, he's not the Andor guy. Tony Gilroy's the Andor guy. But he's not going to look at Tony Gilroy in the face and go, "You're an idiot. Get away from me. Don't do Star Wars. No, 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 no." That's just not going to happen. It's not. So I see that as people are saying it's a jab towards Dave Filoni, but I could not disagree more. Carrie Beck, however, because this is where things get really interesting. People say, I don't want Dave Filoni in charge of the business side of things because that's a waste. He's so creatively a genius and he knows all the lore of Star Wars and should be involved in all the creative processes. Yes, I agree with you. But if you give him a co-president, somebody to deal with the business side of things while he's dealing all with the actual creative side, that's exactly what you need. And if this sounds like deja vu, it technically kind of, I guess, is. DC is doing the same thing. The DC universe right now, where Superman is coming out in about a month, has two co-presidents. It's Peter Safran on the business side and James Gunn on the creative side. James Gunn is directing, writing, and producing the Superman movie and will be creatively involved in all the other DC projects. That's what Dave Filoni will be. He'll be directing his own movie with the Heir to the Empire type Mandoverse movie. He'll be directing Ahsoka Season 2, but he'll still be the leader of the company. He'll still be the leader of the creative side, while Carrie Beck will be on the business side. So the big question is, everybody knows who Dave Filoni is. Who is Carrie Beck? Well, she's been around Star Wars for quite some time. The name might even sound familiar because she's been around for a long, long while. And here's what Carrie Beck seems to be. She joined the company in 2012, so it's been there for 13 years, knows the ins and outs, but neither she nor Filoni has much film experience. Neither of them directed a film, or neither of them created a Star Wars film, which could be mitigated by Kathleen Kennedy's continued presence as a producer, because she won't be leaving the company entirely. She'll still be around to help out as a producer on certain Star Wars projects, ensuring quality control in the short term. She's not just going to go, "Here you go, guys. Have fun." Nope, I'm done. Bye. No. Nope. She's not just going to throw them in the deep end and say, "Try and swim." She's going to be staying around to help out, to usher in Carrie and Dave, to have them be suited the best way possible. She doesn't want them to fail. She's not evil. Like, she wants them to succeed. She wants Star Wars to succeed. So she'll be around in that same capacity. Also, the lack of film experience. Dave Filoni's getting his own... Whoa, what the heck? Dave Filoni's getting his own movie. So for Dave, he's already executive producer on The Mandalorian and Grogu, but he's going to actually get to direct and create his own Star Wars movie. And here's the deal. This is going to take a while to actually happen. Kathleen Kennedy's going to still be the president for the next year or maybe even more. But here's what could go down. Dave Filoni just gave us Ahsoka Season 2. He just executive produced on The Mandalorian and Grogu movie. The year is 2027, let's just say. He just gave us one of the best television shows all time. He's just given us The Mandalorian and Grogu movie as an executive producer and creative writer on that. And now he's going to give us his own movie in the Star Wars universe. So after just straight banger, 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 win, 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 then they go, "That guy you guys love so much, that gave you the Clone Wars, that's the apprentice to George Lucas, that gave you Star Wars Rebels, The Mandalorian, Ahsoka, all these projects you love and know and love so much, The Bad Batch, The Tales of the Jedi, whatever. That guy is your new president." And we're all going to be like, yeah! So that's how I see this going down. Because even still, Kathleen Kennedy gets a lot of hate for the sequel trilogy, for any project that people don't like. She always gets the hate for that. And when the good projects come around, like Andor or The Mandalorian, she doesn't get the credit for doing that either. She's the one who greenlights all those projects. She's the one who brings Tony Gilroy onto Rogue One and then onto Andor. And she's the one who brought John and Dave together. She doesn't get credit for any of that stuff. She only gets the hate. But that's what the role is, I guess. You're the president of Lucasfilm. You get the hate. So I think it's going to be a slow and steady transition over. But this is probably the greatest news we could have ever received in terms of next president of Lucasfilm. I see no other way. I really see no other way where it could be any better. Like, this is the best case scenario if this is what's going to happen. Now, this is just a report. This is not confirmed. This is just speculation from the insiders of what they're hearing, that they're going to be making these promotions from within, and that right now the front runners are Dave Filoni and Carrie Beck. It makes the most sense. One's the chief creative officer. One's the head of production of live action and animated projects right now. That's Carrie Beck's role. She's the president of live action and animation projects. So all the stuff you see from Andor season 2 all the way to the Maul series that comes out next year and everything in between, she's in charge of that. So to get those two to be the leaders,
This is where the fun begins.
I mean, come on. It doesn't get much better than that. But tell me in the chat, do you think this is a good pick? Do you think this is the right decision? And when do you think this is going to go down? When do you think this transition will happen? We do have some more to talk about here, so let's get to the next article while you do that in the chat. So, we just read the story, but let's keep it going. A wide range of stories on The Hollywood Reporter is covering the succession saga at some of the top companies in Hollywood, from Disney to some of the top agencies. Amidst the chaos, reporter Peter also found time to quickly add a note for the future of Lucasfilm. Apparently, Chief Creative Officer Dave Filoni and Head of Development Carrie Beck are the current go-to choices for Disney to be the next co-presidents of Lucasfilm after Kathleen Kennedy departs. It is still far off from being official. Oh, hang on, we got a super chat. Hang on. 50 Thunder with a very generous $2 Hollis Scream Test. I appreciate it. Okay. Now that I've been so rudely interrupted, get back to my article here. Although it is still very far from being official, the latest nugget in the ever-developing story is that originally reported in February that Kathleen Kennedy would be leaving as the head of the studio by the end of this year, or at least the beginning of 2026. Even if she stays on as a producer for future Star Wars movies, some of which are currently in development, like the new Simon Kinberg trilogy, she will be gone as the president. A story by The Hollywood Reporter from back then had already positioned Dave Filoni as the main candidate to take the position, but it had mentioned that he was likely not to be only one to get that title because, again, he's more the creative mind, not the business mind, and we don't need that for Dave Filoni. We don't want that for Dave Filoni. But Carrie Beck seems to be a good fit, and her promotion at the end of 2023 always looked to be a move in that direction. Still, there was some speculation that there could be an outside candidate under consideration. The time of Kathleen Kennedy's departure still remains uncertain. She told Deadline back in February that the exit announcement was months or a year down the road. We talked about this when it happened back in February, but she did say months or a year down the road. Now, that doesn't mean in a couple months she's going to be gone, but it does mean that in a couple months that process of transferring power sounds like we're in Star Wars and it's the galaxy switching powers. The transfer of power will start to begin. By the end of this year, we will already see this transition from Kathleen Kennedy being president to Carrie and Dave taking over. At least I think so. A recent report says she will be leaving in August, but that was struck down. So it seems like she will likely stay until the fall at least. And that would make sense, as the company is currently preparing for new feature films to go into production. Sean Levy's Starfighter movie starring Ryan Gosling and like 10 other ones. Carrie Beck has been a longtime collaborator with Dave Filoni, executive producing his animated series and also the live action series of Ahsoka. She's also been a co-producer of the Mandoverse series, among others. She was an executive producer on Mando Season 2, on The Bad Batch, on Clone Wars Season 7, pretty much all the great stuff that's happened since Disney's taken over and since she's joined the company. But Lucasfilm did not immediately respond to the request for a comment because they never will. Lucasfilm's going to try and keep this under wraps until it's officially announced because they're probably going to want to do it in some big, huge event. Like, this is your next president. Woohoo, yeah. But I don't know when that will be. So that's pretty much the gist of it. Dave Filoni, Carrie Beck, co-presidents of Lucasfilm, taking over for Kathleen Kennedy. What do we think? Now let's be real, chat. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. All right. I actually want to put up a poll. Let's put up a poll. Let's put up a poll. If you haven't smashed a freaking like on the stream, I don't know what the hell you're waiting for. Get on that. Do you think Dave Filoni and Carrie Beck are good, I guess? Good choices for co-CEO. Yes or no? Yes or no? Here's the thing. There's always going to be Star Wars fans that disagree with this. There's always going to be Star Wars fans that are very upset about whatever decision they make. That's just bound to happen. That's how the current Star Wars world is going to live forever. There's never going to be a project that's 100% Star Wars fans love. However, what I will say is this seems to be the one that could please the most people. Because although people love Dave Filoni, there's some people that don't. And even still, making him the co-president is not the singular president, and he doesn't have to deal with all the business side of things either. And Carrie Beck is along with him. So it seems to me that this is the perfect pick, perfect choice, but tell me in the chat. What do we think? And Darth Plagueis lives with a very generous $10 holla. God damn, you guys are feeling generous today. Says, this would be the best outcome. Could not agree more. Also, renew the Acolyte. Much love. We'll talk about the Acolyte in a little bit here. Yeah. But this, I agree. I think this is probably the best outcome. I mean, other than... other than what? I don't even know. What else is a better outcome? What else? You know? I don't know. Does that mean we were getting more witches and zombie troopers and time travel? Well, there is no time travel in Star Wars, which it should remain that way. But are we getting more witches? I mean, witches have been around for, 20 years in Star Wars, at least. And I'm actually rewatching Clone Wars right now with Sam. We're on season 3. And we just got through the arc where Asajj Ventress goes back to the Night Sisters of Dathomir, and they create Savage Opress. And that stuff is just so cool. Like, the witches themselves, being that they are different Force users, because you have the Sith, you have the Jedi, and they're always at a constant battle, but having a different type of like species or religion, I guess. It's like religion. You got Christianity, you got Muslims, I got a million different, I'm not going to list all the religions on Earth, but you got a bajillion different religions on Earth. They all believe in different things. They all have some similarities, but they all believe in different things. That's pretty much the same thing going on here. The Sith believe in different things. The Jedi believe in different things. The witches believe in different things. And they all have different abilities to that. The witches got magic, which is technically the Force, and so do the Jedi and the Sith, and they use them in very different ways. Force choke, Force push, Force lightning, magic. It's kind of hard to explain. But absolutely, I think there's going to be a lot more witches. Undead stormtroopers, probably not. That was sort of a... I don't know if it's a one-time thing, but it's going to be a rare thing for sure. But yeah. And then time travel. No. So that's sort of the confusion with the World Between Worlds. It's not time travel per se. Now, it does get confusing. You can't use the World Between Worlds to go back in time. That's not what happens in Ahsoka. She's just seeing memories in her own head to the past, to the Clone Wars. And it's a lesson that Anakin is teaching her. He's pretty much feeding her those memories. But it's not that she's physically going back there and can change the past. It's all in her head. So it's just her remembering these things. So it's not technically time travel. But yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely, Kiki. For sure. Okay. As the position of, oh wait, hang on. I think Kathleen Kennedy should step down from her position as CEO because her presence is too polarizing. I don't think Filoni and Beck are well suited for the position, as the position of CEO has a lot to do with stakeholder meetings and marketing and control. Well, that's what I think is the reason they're going co-creatives. They're going with, on the one hand, Carrie Beck. She can deal with that stockholder meeting stuff, all the business side, and then Dave Filoni is the creative side. It's to not take one person like Kathleen Kennedy and stretch her unbelievably thin with having to do everything all at once. So it's putting two people there so one can focus on one side and the other can focus on the other side. Yeah. I will say you say her presence is very polarizing. It's very true. And I think that's sort of it's something that they recognize. When you look at Star Wars Celebration, and it starts with Dave Filoni and Kathleen Kennedy walking out on stage. That's the only time that Kathleen Kennedy comes out on stage until the very end, maybe. I don't even know if she came out then. And that's not because she doesn't want to be there, not because she doesn't like Star Wars, not because she's a hater or anything like that. That's because she realizes that the fans, or a large portion of the fans, really don't like her, because all the negative things that happen with Star Wars get put on her shoulders. That's just the reality of the role of being president of Lucasfilm. You get all the crap. But she definitely doesn't get enough credit for all the good either. That's for damn sure. Yeah. 50 Thunder with a 4-month membership badge. I appreciate that. And Kiki and Luca said, with a $5 holla, I appreciate it, says, thanks for answering my comment and explaining it. Well, that's extremely generous. I try my best to get to everybody's comment, but there is a lot of you. But I appreciate that. That's insanely generous. Yes, for sure. I appreciate Kathleen Kennedy for giving us Andor. See, I completely agree. And I don't think that's like said enough, because she gets all the crap for things, but never any of the good stuff. So, yeah. For sure. Yeah. Google says she is an executive producer on Ahsoka, Bad Batch, Tales of the Jedi, so it sounds like she's at least involved in the good stuff. Yeah, she's been an executive producer on the Bad Batch, like you said, Ahsoka, Tales of the Jedi, but also Mando Season 2, specifically, Clone Wars Season 7, because she didn't join the company until after Season 6 had ended. So she's been on board for a lot of the good. A lot of the good. Yeah. George Lucas coming back, but that's never going to happen. Okay, so I guess that's probably the one other possibility that fans would like even more than this, is George Lucas's return to Star Wars, which is never going to happen. Just like John's saying, I mean, the reason that George Lucas sold the company in the first place 13 years ago is because he wanted the continuation of Star Wars to go on forever. He realized that if he even made the sequel trilogy, he'd be 80 by the time he finished it, and he wouldn't want to do that. He wouldn't want to be in his old age just stressing away to create more Star Wars content. So he saw the gigantic company of Disney that had so much money to spend and to give us a $500 million show like Andor, and gave it to that company, putting Kathleen, his number 2 at the time, in charge, giving them Dave Filoni, his apprentice at the time, to do more of the animation, and leaving them with the best opportunity to succeed. Yeah. So George, although George could come back in sort of a consulting type role, he's been on set for many of these Mandoverse projects and other things like that. He's not going to come back in any way of writing, directing, or anything like that. Sadly, because, I mean, imagine they announced a project that Dave Filoni and George Lucas co-created. Like, that would just be insane. Yeah. Absolutely. And by the way, this poll right now currently sits at 83% of you say yes. This is a good choice for co-CEOs of Lucasfilm. And I completely agree. I think this is the best option that you have right now. The guy who's given you the best Star Wars content since you sold the company, and the girl who's produced on all of it and can give you the business side of things. Absolutely. Alexander Wilson with a very generous $5 holla. I appreciate that, Alexander. Says, this is a bad idea. Filoni and Beck are responsible for too much awful content. Okay. Their names are not on Andor, which is the best Star Wars since Empire. Well, I'll agree with you that Andor is the best thing since Revenge of the Sith. Oh, you said Empire? No, just kidding. Yeah, Andor is incredible. Don't get me wrong. I agree with you there. But what are their names attached to that's bad? I guess that's more of an objective opinion. Or I guess a subjective opinion. But I don't know. I disagree. I actually think I wouldn't be surprised if, because he's chief creative officer now and Carrie Beck, of course, is in charge of all live action animation projects. I'm sure their involvement in Andor was very small, but I'm sure there was an involvement there. There's somebody behind the scenes who's throwing in Rakatan Empire mentions, and it's not Tony Gilroy. There's somebody putting in Mandalorian armor, Plo Koon's mask, World Between Worlds references in Luthen's gallery, and it's not Tony Gilroy. So I don't know if there's officially going to be an involvement of Dave Filoni in Andor, but yeah. Yeah. Let's not forget Dave Filoni is CCO right now. Nothing gets done, nothing gets through the door without his approval. Exactly. And that's been the case for over 2 years now. So for the last 2 years and for the future content that's coming out, nothing has gotten through there without his approval and his insight. So all the creative stuff that's come out from Lucasfilm is Dave Filoni, his involvement in some sort of way, whether it's a tiny little thing or it's this massive, he writes the whole thing. He's involved in some sort of way. And that's really the goal. Because when you announce these two to be your next presidents, you go, look at all the great stuff they've done. Look at all the great things they've created. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I got one more thing here. Oh yeah. So this is the same topic, but I guess more so. Okay, let's just read this. So Dave Filoni has this recent interview. This was back in April, where he's talking about Kevin Feige and how he's taken notes and has been inspired by Kevin Feige and what he's done over at Marvel. Because there was one outside hire that fans really liked, and that was Kevin Feige. What if they brought in the guy who did Marvel for the last 15 years and had him be the next CEO of Star Wars? Wouldn't be an awful approach. I mean, he does have guaranteed success, but let's talk about this, okay? Dave Filoni is building out the Star Wars universe and reveals how he took notes from Marvel, the inspiration of Kevin Feige. Marvel Cinematic Universe may be the gold standard when it comes to movie franchises. Numerous other film franchises have tried, and most have failed, to copy the success of the company's first few phases 1, 2, and 3. Meanwhile, Disney's other big global franchise, Star Wars, has had more ups and downs on its path to success. Now, Lucasfilm's creative chief officer, Dave Filoni, says he is taking inspiration from the MCU and Kevin Feige. And if you look at this as bad news, I don't know what the hell you're doing. Marvel clearly got it right with the $25 billion they made in just 12 years? Something like that? Something crazy. Following Rosario Dawson and more appearing at Star Wars Celebration in Japan, we have a lot more visibility into what's going on in the world of upcoming Star Wars movies and TV series. Speaking with Screen Rant, Lucasfilm CCO Dave Filoni admitted that building the franchise with multiple projects in development at once is tricky. Which only makes him more impressed with how Kevin Feige was able to do it with the MCU, as he says this. So we were figuring all these things out and looking at every project. And yeah, it's like project development. Sure. They don't all develop at the same time, but in Star Wars, it's tricky because you need certain things to go one over the other. If there's going to be the same space, if there's in the same space of the way the audience will perceive it. So meaning you can't do Mando season 3 before Ahsoka. Actually, wait, is that right? You can't do Ahsoka season 2 before Mando season 3. We'll put it that way instead. Which is why, like I said in the interview earlier, I really am fascinated by what Kevin Feige was able to pull off, and I think it's so special and so unique. So now Dave has a way bigger role here. So you have projects. It's not just the Mandoverse that's going on right now. You got the Maul series, which takes place in the prequels-ish era going into the original trilogy era. You have stuff post-sequels with the Starfighter movie, which we'll talk about in a little bit. You got the Acolyte, which is pre-everything. You got the James Mangold Dawn of the Jedi movie, which is 25,000 years before anything. So you got stuff all over the timeline. And being able to produce all those projects at the same time or at varying times, it's a big thing to accomplish. And that's what Dave Filoni has been learning, I guess, over the last 3 years in preparation for this role of CEO. He is the CCO right now. So, the Marvel Cinematic Universe was certainly unlike anything that has been attempted before. The first set of movies, a collection of superhero origin stories, and then came together for the Avengers. And that was entirely new for the franchise, only ballooned from there. While many have argued that the MCU has struggled recently as a whole, there is still nothing quite like it. Yes, Marvel has its misses. I mean, there's a lot of them as of recent past, but it definitely has its multi-billion-dollar movies as well, from Spider-Man No Way Home to, I guess, a show like Loki being this massive, massive success on Disney+. Both MCU and Star Wars franchises are streaming on. Okay, yeah, sure. Blah, 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 blah. Okay. Star Wars certainly tried to do something of its own version of the MCU in the years since Disney has bought Lucasfilm. We've seen a number of Star Wars movies in existence, nearly double the numerous Disney Plus series in addition. However, when Disney has sometimes admitted that Star Wars has grown too fast. Clearly what worked for Marvel didn't work perfectly for Star Wars. And obviously the same formula is not going to work the same. We don't need 3 Star Wars movies a year like Marvel was doing. We don't need that. Not even close. 1 Star Wars movie a year is a lot. 1 every other year would be pretty good too. So you don't need that much of a quantity. It's more quality over quantity, as we talk about all the time. However, part of the reason that the MCU model doesn't fit perfectly with Star Wars has to do with the greater expanding timeline. Because even with the MCU, you can reboot, you can do all this other stuff. With Star Wars, the timeline is the timeline, and it really can't change. Not much, at least. However, while Star Wars franchise growth may be different, or growth may go differently, Filoni is clearly looking at the MCU as inspiration for something that he can do with a galaxy far, far away, as he continued. The Marvel Cinematic Universe and what Kevin Feige was able to accomplish on that timeline perfectly place all these different elements. It's an incredible skill and it's really remarkable. Honestly, bring over Kevin Feige. Why not? Let's just do it. You know, let's just have him. You know, right there. You know, yeah. Okay, we are not operating like they do, like the MCU does. We are a bit different in Star Wars because our timeline moves a little bit differently because you can jump all over the timeline. But I take a lot of inspiration even from that. And I've talked to Kevin Feige, and what a great guy. So we are at a great moment. Honestly, that's enough for me. If these two are in communication and figuring out how to continue the Star Wars brand in the best way possible, we're in pretty damn good hands, chat. When we're looking at the future of Star Wars content, when we're looking at the future of who's going to replace Kathleen Kennedy And you got Dave Filoni and Carrie Beck coming in, and not only that, but Dave Filoni's in contact with Kevin Feige and figuring out how to create the future of the Star Wars universe. We're living it up over here, Star Wars fans. It's insane. Okay. With multiple Star Wars movies in development, multiple, more like a dozen in development, that now seem likely to actually happen, nice, and even more shows on the horizon, you'll be able to access them with the Disney Plus show. The franchise is certainly looking to expand at a fast rate. Star Wars is certainly hoping to find success on par with the Marvel at Marvel's high point. Whether that happens remains to be seen. Jeez. Yeah. So there you have it. I really see no other way. Like, who else is the best option for this? The guy who's given you some of the greatest, or the greatest Star Wars contents to ever exist, or some other Joe Schmo that we don't even know? And I didn't mean to rhyme there. Yeah. The apprentice to George Lucas himself, the guy who's given us some of the, if not the greatest storytelling in Star Wars, or somebody else. Pretty self-explanatory to me. Justin said, the best baddie ever. Wait, what? It's just the beginning of Lars Mikkelsen as Grand Admiral Thrawn. Oh, yeah. We're getting a lot more Grand Admiral Thrawn, too. I wouldn't mind Kevin Feige on Star Wars. I wonder if he would come over to just direct or even just write a specific movie or project. It'd be great to see him just come over and maybe help out in some way, shape, or form. That'd be nice, too. Yeah. I vote you, Mike. You should be in charge of Disney Star Wars. No.
Incorrect.
No. If you want to watch a company crash and burn, put me in charge. That would be horrible. I wouldn't know the first thing about any of the business side of things. And as creative as I think I may be, there's a whole different level to that kind of stuff. Yeah. Yeah. Did George Lucas say that Filoni was his apprentice, or did Dave Filoni? I don't think either of them said that specifically. I think we have dubbed him his apprentice. Bor Gullet knows the truth. Exactly, Jason. See, Jason knows what's up. Exactly. Okay. So, with that being said, and currently still 80% of you in this poll say yes, you think that those are great options. It seems likely that this is the way that it's going to go down. It seems very likely that we're going to get to see Dave Filoni and Carrie Beck be the future presidents of Lucasfilm, as Kathleen Kennedy steps down from the position, still remains with the company as an executive producer and helping out with all the movies and stuff like that. But she's stepping down from the position of president. And honestly, at this point, coming off the backs of Star Wars Celebration, coming off the backs of Tales of the Underworld, of Andor Season 2, Battlefront 2 has never seen a bigger peak than now. It couldn't be a better time to be a Star Wars fan, and this couldn't be the best. There couldn't be a better time, honestly, to make this transition happen. Especially when you look at 2026 and the greatness that's coming. A Maul series. Next animated Star Wars show is a Maul series that starts next year. The Mandalorian and Grogu movie kickstarts us back into this big screen for Star Wars for the first time in 6.5 years. And we get Ahsoka Season 2. It's going to be a wild year. Indeed it is. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Let's oh wait, there was one more thing I want to talk about with this. Yeah, so this is what I was talking about earlier. So Carrie Beck is currently the president of Lucasfilm's animation and live action. She executive produced on The Bad Batch, produced on the Clone Wars Season 7 and Mando Season 2. And then this was the report when it first sort of came out. Dave Filoni is reportedly the top candidate to co-run Star Wars after Kathleen Kennedy leaves, currently thinking he will co-head Lucasfilm with Carrie Beck. Some worry that he's too steeped in Star Wars lore, risking that the brand loses the broader audience. And one insider said he's not the Andor guy, he's the Ahsoka guy. But he's also the guy who was in charge when Andor happened. So there you have it. And that's sort of, I guess, the perfect end cap for that. And we talked about the Kevin Feige stuff. We'll get to the Acolyte stuff in a second. And the Battlefront 2 stuff. Okay. All right. Let's switch gears a little bit here to the Acolyte. Okay. Whoa. Calm down, Chet. I understand the Acolyte has been a very controversial topic, to say the least. And it's been a year. We are celebrating the year anniversary of the Acolyte. It was either yesterday or the day before that was the exact premiere year since the premiere. But this is a year since the Acolyte. And a year out, some opinions have changed, some have not. But some opinions have changed as to the future of what the Acolyte storyline could be. Because when you leave a gigantic cliffhanger in the Star Wars universe, that cliffhanger is going to be filled. It's going to be explained. There's no big old cliffhangers in Star Wars that just stay there, that will never be explained. There's some things that will never be explained, like Yoda's species, the world between worlds, some Force Ghost stuff. There's some things that may never be explained, but cliffhanger-wise, giving us the tease of Darth Plagueis and this whole continuation of a story between Chimere and Vanestra Rao and the continuation of Chimere training Osha and all that stuff. There's never been a bigger cliffhanger that would just remain the same. That's like getting The Force Awakens with Luke standing on the cliffside, reaching out, or with Rey reaching out to him, and then going, yeah, we're just going to stop that. Nah. We're just going to leave it there. You know, just never tell the rest of that story. So with that, I think since a year has passed, some fans are itching. Well, they were itching originally, but even more fans now are itching to see the continuation of that story. And actually, we got a pretty good is interesting statement. A article, well, let's just put it that way, for a year later, talking about the Acolyte. Since things have died down, the war in the fandom, I guess, has died down. We can talk about this in more of a civil setting. But first things first, I want to just remind you of how great this is for a second. Oh, sorry. I could watch this for hours. Chimere is not only one of the coolest new characters in Star Wars just visually, his lightsaber's badass, the Cortosis helmet and gauntlet things that he has on his... I mean, come on! But we got some of the...
I got a bad feeling about this.
Oh my God! Too soon. A year is not long enough. Oh, it's so funny. Okay, sorry. But we also got some of the... As I was saying, some of the greatest lightsaber duels we've ever seen in Star Wars. And getting, obviously, it's a time period where there can be a ton of Jedi around and a ton, and at least one Sith or an acolyte of the Sith, whatever you want to call him. Getting some of the greatest lightsaber duels of all time. So continuation of that sounds pretty damn good to me. Whatever the stunt choreography or just choreography crew in general for the Acolyte, they need to be involved in pretty much every project moving forward for Star Wars. Just here on out, they need to be numero uno for lightsaber duels. Just, I wonder if this, I didn't watch this before. Does it go to the fight later on? Oh, it does. chat, I think we're about to see Jackie die. So, just a warning. But let's see. Oh, the show's so freaking good. Okay, sorry. I got a little distracted here. I was just sort of supposed to just show you a clip of this just to show you how great the choreography was. But even still, getting to see that and then going, yeah, so not only are we going to leave you on a cliffhanger with giving you Darth Plagueis and giving you that whole mysterious story between the stranger / Chimere and Vanestra Rao, his former master, and those whips, scars on his back. There's a whole story there. There's a giant cliffhanger. But also we're going to give you some of the greatest lightsaber duels to ever be seen in Star Wars. And you will never get any more of that ever again. Never. You know, just never. Now, I will say, as the title of this live stream does indicate, and it is the truth, the story of the Acolyte does continue. Fairly recently, I believe within the last couple of weeks here, we have gotten the first prequel novel to the Acolyte, which is about Vanestra Rao and Master Indira, I believe, 20 years or something like that before the events of the Acolyte. So that prequel novel's out. There's another prequel novel about Yord and Jeki that's coming out this year as well. So there's still stories in that time period about these characters that are still happening. However, they're not live action. They're not even animated. They're just books. And although there's some great Star Wars books, don't get me wrong, I'm listening to Dark Force Rising right now. But when you got live action content like this, I'd love to see some more. I'd love to see some more. As much as I love these characters, and many of them die in this forest, as we just watched Jeki get stabbed 3 times. R.I.P. Jeki. Erica, what's up? How we doing? I want to see more of these characters. Chimere, specifically, top 10 character for me, easily. I need more. Darth Plagueis. I mean, we saw Darth Plagueis in the chat earlier. We need more Darth Plagueis. We need him. The opportunities for an Acolyte Season 2, an Acolyte Season 3, Acolyte Season 4 are absurd. You can go from Chimere being the apprentice to Plagueis to, of course, Palpatine being the apprentice to Plagueis. And have the Acolyte of the title be Darth Maul. Because he is an Acolyte of the Sith before the Phantom Menace. So the opportunities, the craziness that could be the future of an Acolyte seasons, not only getting to actually see more Darth Plagueis and him training Chimere and Osha, or I guess training just Chimere and Chimere training Osha, getting to see more of that would be absolutely insane. Absolutely insane. But that's just me. We are celebrating the 1-year anniversary of the Acolyte, and I know a lot of you guys in the chat do really love the Acolyte, just like myself. I know many of you probably don't, but even still, because we are the people who love Star Wars, because we are try to be very positive all the time, we have to keep it civil in the chat, of course. But I want to see how this ends. Oh, that's it. Okay. Oh, what a great character. Okay, sorry. I got a little bit distracted there. Let's get to this article, okay? So, Inverse.com wrote this article, and I'm going to be completely honest with you. I have not read it yet. So I'm very intrigued because I think Inverse is sort of on the more negative side when it comes to the Acolyte. So I'm very intrigued to see what they have to say about this. Let's take a look. The Acolyte could have saved Star Wars TV had it gotten another chance. That's a pretty interesting title. 1 year after its cancellation, The Acolyte remains one of Star Wars' biggest missed opportunities for growth. It feels silly to mourn the loss of a TV show, particularly one that was only in our lives for a short period of time. But it's hard not to think of The Acolyte without feeling a twist in my gut. Lucasfilm's innovative, ill-fated series premiered 1 year ago today, opening the door to a new corner of the Star Wars galaxy. Before The Acolyte, the saga was treading water. Sure, Andor's first season had presented a novelty and prestige that had long evaded the franchise. Besides that offering, however, Star Wars felt creatively stagnant. Spin-offs of like the Obi-Wan Kenobi series and the Book of Boba Fett largely failed to justify their existence. And though Ahsoka endeavored to expand the galaxy in new direction, adding a ton of lore to the Star Wars galaxy, it felt more like a proof of concept, or worse, a exercise in nostalgia because of Anakin, than a dawn of a new era. So that's pretty much what they wanted to see when it came to the Acolyte. One thing seems clear: after so many hits and misses, Star Wars needed fresh blood. They didn't need flesh. They're not zombies. Fresh blood. In a new perspective that wasn't so reliant on the original trilogy. Showrunner Leslie Headland stepped up when the franchise needed her most, turning our focus to an unexplored but steadily growing era in the Star Wars history. The Acolyte was the first live-action series set in the age of the High Republic, which, by the way, the High Republic books are coming to an end. I believe it's either out now or it's coming soon. I'm not caught up to date on the High Republic stuff, but I'm pretty sure it's coming to an end. Phase 3 is. And that alone gave the franchise a breath of fresh air it long needed. With the unforgettable cast of characters and intriguing mystery fueled its premise, and Headland at the helm, the Acolyte had a power to deliver Star Wars TV out of the dark ages. If only it had been given a chance. Wow, this is not the way I saw this article going. Well, The Acolyte wasn't a totally perfect series. It does deserve its props for bringing a new brand of conflict to the Star Wars saga. From the very beginning, the franchise has told the same tale of good versus evil. The players change, but the conflict has always been the same. The Acolyte has one of the first that had the guts to flip the script on the Jedi Order. And that's a lot of the reason why people actually didn't like the series, was because they painted the Jedi to sort of be the bad guys in a way. And that is pretty much the reality that people don't want to see. In terms of the Jedi of the prequel trilogy, they are very corrupted by the dark side. They are very corrupted by politics. And that's why they don't see Palpatine rise to power. That's why they have the Chosen One in the palm of their hands and they let him get away. That's the reason that the Jedi Order is so bad by the time of the prequel trilogy. That's why Qui-Gon's not on the council. That's why Count Dooku leaves the Jedi Order. The Acolyte's just the beginning of that. It's just the blindness, the unwillingness to see what's truly in front of their faces, because peace in quotations, you have other threats than the Sith. But Sith have been gone for so long, and they almost forget what it's like to know a Sith Lord. And they can't even see one when it's right in front of their stupid faces. But that's sort of a big reason as to why people didn't like the Acolyte, was because they portrayed the Jedi as almost not bad guys, but they portrayed them as not geniuses, not ahead of everything, not Master Yoda's all over the place. But even Master Yoda didn't see Palpatine coming, didn't see Anakin's fall to the dark side. Like, there's a lot of issues there, people. A lot of issues. And that's what the Acolyte was trying to start off, because this is the beginning of the end for the Jedi Order. This is about 100 years before. This is the beginning of the fall that we see in The Phantom Menace, in the Attack of the Clones, and in Revenge of the Sith. The Jedi Order has collapsed, and it continues to collapse over the course of 100 years. It's a slow process, but that's how it has to be. It doesn't happen overnight that the Jedi just become corrupted like that. It happens over a long period of time. So yeah, they flipped the script on the Jedi Order, depicting the stalwart warriors, sure, as flawed individuals moving in a suppressive, I was right, institution. So Master Soul is pretty much the perfect example of what the Jedi Order becomes. He makes a mistake of trying to save this girl, and in doing so, killing all of her family and creating a monster in her sister, having to choose one or the other. And he makes this big mistake. And then it gets even worse because Vanestra finds out about this mistake and covers it up to the rest of the Jedi Council. Now, it's not just to cover it up for the Jedi's sake, but for political sake. Because the Jedi are so worried about their political stance that they can't have this information get out about the Jedi doing these horrible things and this being a bigger thing of the Sith have returned. Because at the time, we don't really get a lot of the political stuff in The Acolyte. It's only a few scenes. But of the stuff we do receive on the political side, it's very evident that the what is the guy's name that comes to Venestra in like the second to last episode? I forgot his name. Somebody in the chat help me out. But it shows that the politics, the Republic is on their asses, and they don't need the Sith returning to be this, we can't trust the Jedi anymore. We got to lose faith in the Jedi. This guy's even talking about how the galaxy has put all their faith in these mystical warriors, but what if those mystical warriors turn against us? And that's exactly what pretty much happens, or at least what Palpatine makes the galaxy think happens, and that's why it works. The Acolyte's just the beginning of that. Jedi like Venestra Rao, Indara, Sol, still serve light and life, but each have made major mistakes in their effort to uphold their Kree. And that's pretty much the gist of The Acolyte, and it's done in an unbelievable way. In the last days of the High Republic, the Jedi's bad karma manifests in the form of a May Anastasia, I think. Wow, it's been a long time since we talked Acolyte. I don't even know how to say May's last name. May Anastasia. As a child, her family was slaughtered in a mysterious accident, and for one reason or another, she blamed the Jedi for the tragedy. Now a hardened warrior and with a proto-Sith master, Chimere, May launches into a quest for revenge. The demise of Master Indara immediately puts the Order on alert, and while May slinks into the shadows, her twin sister Osha, a former Jedi Padawan herself, is tapped as a prime suspect in Indara's murder case because, yeah, they're twins. The Acolyte is a part murder mystery, part revenge thriller with a clear reverence for sweeping tragic wuxia films, sure, and Star Wars' unexplored lore. Osha reteams with Master Sol, her old Jedi master, to help clear her name, while May and her former master, her master, take out Jedi one by one. Kelnaka, Indara. What is the meditating guy's name? Completely blanking on that guy's name too. Chat. Senator Ravencourt. Yes, thank you. Ravencourt's a great name. Yeah, Ravencourt. But what's the other Jedi's name that they killed? He's the guy who meditates for like, whatever, 20 years. He meditates forever. Torben. Yes, thank you, Torben. I think it's time to do an Acolyte rewatch. I'm forgetting too much of these characters' names. Okay. The Acolyte certainly doesn't pull its punches on the action front. Each combat sequence harkens back to the pulse-pounding duels that defined the Star Wars prequels. Each of our players has something to fight for, turning a classic conflict into one rife with emotional stakes and difficult choices. Through Osha's push and pull with May, the Acolyte's intricate and chat English. Through Osha's push and pull with May, the Acolyte English chat. English. The virtues and vices of the Jedi Order. And by examining the franchise's consistent protagonists in more critical light, the Jedi themselves, the series also challenges the hero worship that's long defined the fandom, because everybody worships the Jedi. There you go. Everybody worships the Jedi Order, and that's why a lot of people didn't really like the fact that the Acolyte puts them in a very dark, dim room where they're the evil bad guys, in a way. From a certain point of view, from Anakin's point of view, the Jedi are evil, and Chimeras too, and Plagueis is at that as well. Of course, the choice didn't go over well with every Star Wars fan. The understatement of the year, right here, from Inverse.com. Of course, the Acolyte choices didn't go over well with every Star Wars fan. you think? But The Acolyte faced backlash long before its divisive premise even saw the light of day. As we've talked about before, the show came in at a 13% on Rotten Tomatoes as an audience score before the first episode even aired. So before people even saw the first seconds of this series, they had already made up their mind. Already. But like a handful of Star Wars projects, the series was targeted for anti-woke hostilities from the very beginning. The negative reaction to the show only grew as it premiered in 2024, a year ago, making it difficult to engage with the subject matter in good faith. I will say, having covered this show when it did come out, it was a very interesting time. The community was very volatile. It was very all over the place. People really loved the show. People really hated the show. People were indifferent to the show. But it was a very strange time to be a Star Wars fan. A lot of hate getting thrown around, like really, really bad hate, just coming after people personally and attacking people for their opinions. And that still happens now, but it was even more so at the time. So for those reasons, and for the reasons of it getting so much hate online and creating this civil war in the Star Wars fandom, obviously the second season got canceled. That was the logical thing to do from a business perspective, if you're looking at it from Lucasfilm's perspective. You don't want that to continue with the Star Wars fandom. You don't want that all-out war in the Star Wars fandom to go on any longer. So you just cancel the show. You have a bunch of Star Wars fans who are upset. They're saying renew the Acolyte, but they're not crapping on the show. They're celebrating the show. It's really the only logical option for them was to cancel the second season. At the time, for people holding out hope for an Acolyte season 2, well, just keep on holding. It might be a while, but hey, stranger things have happened. It remains one of the most watched Star Wars shows on Disney Plus. That is true. But that wasn't even enough to save it from the chopping block. It's not a view duration thing, clearly. I mean, Andor got a second season, and that first season wasn't watched by anybody. I mean, obviously I watched it, and you guys watched it too, but not a lot of people watched Andor season 1, and it still got greenlit for an Andor season 2. But that's not all that goes into greenlighting a second season for a show. Disney officially canceled The Acolyte just a few months after its final season had wrapped, citing low viewership numbers and an unsustainable budget as the primary culprits. Yes, the budget was very, very high, but again, I go back to Andor. Andor's very low viewership numbers still gave you over $500 million spent on 2 seasons, which is craziness. Despite the franchise's checkered history on the small screen on Disney Plus, it is the only Star Wars series to be canceled on Disney Plus. Because although Book of Boba Fett hasn't gotten a season 2, although Skeleton Crew hasn't gotten a season 2, Kenobi hasn't gotten a season 2, there's still the likelihood that they could. It's not that they've been canceled. It's not that we'll never get a second season of Book of Boba Fett or any of those other shows I just mentioned. It's just they haven't canceled them like they canceled The Acolyte. It's also one of few that deserves to continue the journey. It is one that leaves you on a cliffhanger. The Book of Boba Fett's not a cliffhanger. Skeleton Crew is not a cliffhanger. The Obi-Wan Kenobi series is not a cliffhanger. This is the only one that leaves you with a setup for a second season. Setup for more story. This is it. But 1 year later, The Acolyte's ultimate fate still stings. Again, the series has its flaws, but its originality and confidence outweighs any narrative imbalances. The Acolyte brought something brand new to the saga, and it was clear that Leslie Headland had big plans for future seasons. The introduction of legacy characters like Master Yoda and Darth Plagueis raised the stakes for an immediate, complex narrative, and though this story can continue in other mediums like comics, novels, etc., it is a shame we will never get to see it play out in live action. I mean, never say never, but it seems highly unlikely at this point. Now, let's talk about it, okay? First things first, tell me in the chat, do you want an Acolyte Season 2? Yes or no? Tell me in the chat. Actually, let's pull this up. Let's pull it up. Why not? By the way, I just ended this poll. Do you think that Dave Filoni and Carrie Beck are good choices for the co-CEO? 73% of you say yes. 26, math is not mathing, say no. I could not agree with you more. All right, let's do this. Do you want The Acolyte Season 2? Yes or no? Yes or no? What do we think? Can you add spin-off to the poll? It wouldn't be a spin-off, though. You could make a Darth Plagueis show and it be a continuation of the character of Chimera, but it still wouldn't be, it would be an Acolyte Season 2. It just would be. So, yeah. If the Plagueis novel becomes canon, then 100%, but otherwise skeptical. I think aspects of the Plagueis novel can become canon. Not necessarily all of it, though. There's a lot of things in that novel that they could work in canon, but it would change a lot of things, especially revolving around Anakin's character. Yeah. Yeah. It's not just a simple yes or no. Well, it is a simple yes or no for if you want it or not. Whether they're going to make it or not, well, we'll see. Only time will tell. Acolyte, no. Chimera, yes. Well, that would be the continuation of the story. He is the main character at this point. All the other characters are dead. Osha and Chimera would be season 2 with Plagueis, Vanestra Rao, Yoda, and that whole story. That would be the whole thing. So I think I really don't know how a season 2 would play out. I think you get a lot more Plagueis for sure in that whole training stuff, but you get the backstory of Vanestra and Chimera played out, and you get to see that showdown go down. Because maybe Chimera, all the characters from Acolyte Season 1 are dead. Or not all, but most. All the Jedi, Master Soul, Jeki, Yord, they're all dead. Indara, Torben, Kelnaka. The gist of the show, because it's focusing on the bad guys, is killing off all your main heroes. And they did that pretty damn well. Nobody comes out of that forest alive except for Soul, and he has to die later on in the season. So, it would be so good. It would be so great. Yes, a season 2 that leads into Darth Plagueis. I believe the whole novel is canon. Oh, is quasi-canon? Maybe. I just think, here's the deal. You can go from The Acolyte Season 1, which maybe you like it, maybe you don't, whatever. Then you go to The Acolyte Season 2, that's more involved with Plagueis specifically. It's more Plagueis training Chimera, maybe even training Osha as well, and maybe training Osha to just kill off Chimera. Who knows? The Sith work, the rule of 2, they're always just trying to kill the master and so on and so forth. So the second season would be majorly about Chimera and Plagueis and that relationship. The following season could be Chimera's dead or gone or whatever may happen. Who knows? And the Jedi think the Sith are gone, or they think the threat is gone, because Vanestra knows that there's a threat out there. It's her former apprentice. He's wielding a lightsaber, or I don't know if she even knows that, but he's still alive and he's involved with this whole murder mystery situation. So she has to go deal with that and keep it under wraps from the Senate, which is clearly what would be a big point in season 2. So either Vanestra comes out on top and kills Chimera, thinking that she has solved the issue and that whole thing is over and done with, but Plagueis still lives, or Chimera kills Vanestra. But that, I guess, would open a whole new bag of bad stuff happening. I don't know. I think the more likelihood is that Vanestra kills Chimera and she thinks that the Sith are gone, or at least the threat is gone, because I don't think she thinks that he's a Sith in the first place. So then you go on to season 3, where Plagueis doesn't have an apprentice anymore, and he's looking for a new one. And maybe he happens upon this nice little planet called Naboo. And he happens upon this angry little child named Sheev Palpatine, who murders his entire family. And then we get this, him being the Acolyte now, and him being the Acolyte of the Sith. And now the title of the show goes from Osha to Chimere or Osha to Chimere to Palpatine. And then maybe even to Darth Maul in a possible season 4. Like, that would be insanity. And I've said it again, I've said it before and I'll say it again. When you look at the Star Wars shows, especially the Clone Wars, Rebels, the Bad Batch, even the Mandalorian to an extent, if you stop after season 1, even Ahsoka, if you stop after season 1, first of all, the Clone Wars season 1 is good. It's not great. It's probably the worst season of the entire series, but it's to set up all these characters, to set up Ahsoka, to set up Captain Rex, to introduce us to all these clones. And yes, the arcs get way better in the later down seasons, but you need those early seasons to establish these characters, make you feel connected to these characters, and tell a story. Same thing with Rebels. You get introduced to all these Ghost Crew members, to Ezra, all that stuff. And then the story continues, and from there on out, it's peak. Season 2, 3, 4. Same thing with the Bad Batch. The season 3 of the Bad Batch is peak. Like, it's one of the greatest Star Wars seasons ever, but it only works because of season 1 and season 2. And season 1 and season 2 are not nearly as good as season 3, in my personal opinion. And even The Mandalorian, if that gets canceled after 1 season, we don't get season 2. We don't get, well, arguably the greatest season of television. Same with, I guess, Andor now you can say too. Andor is Andor, as many people call it. The first season is slow. It's great, but it's slow. And it didn't get a lot of views. If that gets canceled after the first season, we just sat there and watched season 2. Season 2, like somebody mentioned earlier, is the greatest thing since Empire. It's the greatest thing we've seen in Star Wars in a long, long time. That doesn't happen if it gets canceled after season 1, because season 1 was too slow. Season 1 didn't get watched by many people. Season 1 wasn't good enough. So I love The Acolyte. I really, really do. And I'm not telling you that you have to like The Acolyte. I'm just more so saying, let's not end something that could evolve to be something even greater. Like the Clone Wars. Like Andor. Like The Mandalorian. Like Rebels. Like Ahsoka Season 2 right now, just based off of what we've heard from Star Wars Celebration, with this all-out war in our Star Wars between Thrawn and Akbar in the one universe, getting possibly Abeloth and all this crazy stuff with Force Ghost Anakin in a different universe. We don't get that if Ahsoka gets canceled after 1 season. So if The Acolyte weren't to have gotten canceled, then we would have gotten a continuation of that story, and Season 2 could have been leaps and bounds better than Season 1. Much like most other television is. Almost always the second season is better than the first. I say almost. I'm sure there's a bunch of shows that really suck after season 1, but it's not giving it the opportunity to breathe and tell the story that needs to be told. Yeah. Exactly. Acolyte probably gets a second season if it was on cable. Maybe. I really don't know how the whole thing works. Obviously, throwing a bunch of money into the show like that, if it's only on Disney Plus, is probably a lot harder to do. But yeah. But what do we think in the chat? Should The Acolyte get a second season? To either continue the story, whether you like it or not, to maybe hope that it gets better, or maybe to get more Darth Plagueis, or maybe even to hopefully have it turn into a young Palpatine show eventually. Because now, even if we do get a young Palpatine show eventually, because fans have been begging for it for years, that show will involve Chimere in some sort of way. By mention or who knows what. Plagueis' apprentice at one point was Chimere. And that's just the canon of it all. In my opinion, we really need to see more Chimere. Could not agree with you more. Take a look at this guy. Take a look at this guy. I mean, shout out to Manny Jacinto. 10 out of 10. No, 11 out of 10. So good. So good. He's not even called Chimera, though. That's true. We don't even know his real name. Like he's the stranger. Yeah, we don't even know his real name. That's what's even more crazy. He's one of the greatest characters in Star Wars right now, and we don't even know. Don't even know his name. Yeah. Speak louder, Mike. You are so right. How about this? Is this okay? Okay, and obviously the whole Knights of Ren thing. Them playing the Knights of Ren theme. We'll never get that answered either. There's so many unanswered questions. So many. I didn't like the witches. That was a big issue with season 1 too. A lot of people didn't really either know that witches were involved in Star Wars, or they didn't like the witches that were shown in this series. Well, guess what? I got great news for you. And for everybody who doesn't like the witches, they're dead. The continuation of season 2 would have 0 witches because they're all dead. So, yeah. There you have it. But yeah, definitely want more of Chimera. That's for damn sure. Even if it's not in Acolyte season 2, definitely need more of that guy. Definitely need more of that guy. I'm actually really shocked at how this article just went, because they were a lot more on board with the Acolyte than I thought. For some reason, I always thought that Inverse.com really, really hated it. But what are you going to do? They do bring up a great point, though. With Star Wars, so much of it not only takes place in the Skywalker saga, but so much of it is a very similar type of storytelling. From the good guys' perspective, the good guys always win, all this stuff. And although Andor was slightly different and everybody loved Andor, the Acolyte's failure, and I guess the Andor's lack of views, makes it look bad from a Lucasfilm perspective. Makes it look like people don't want that. People don't want anything that isn't connected to the original trilogy cast or to the Skywalker saga. That's just the way it looks from a business perspective. They tried the Acolyte. It didn't work. They tried Andor. And although Andor is a critically acclaimed success, the viewership numbers are still not there to warrant it being over $500 million. So it's almost like we tried to do something that isn't just connected to the main story, and it didn't work. Not that I think that, I mean, I thought it worked. I thought both worked very well, actually. But that's the issue. Again, Razor T says, I'd love a proper Old Republic show or movie. The problem with getting that now is that Lucasfilm looks at it like that failed. We tried to move out of the Skywalker saga and it failed twice. So I've talked about this before, but that's why the Dawn of the Jedi movie, James Mangold's Dawn of the Jedi movie, that's 25,000 years before anything, that's why that really has a lot riding on it. And I mean a lot. Because, I mean, it's 25,000 years before everything. It's got the Jedi's origins. That's so important. And it's not connected to the Skywalker saga. That's even more important. So if you do want a Old Republic trilogy or even saga or shows or movies, or like Poppy Cotton Adventures, nice name, says Cad Bane, a Bane trilogy, Darth Bane. If you want that stuff, it's going to have to change. Something's going to have to change. Yeah. But no, I absolutely agree. A Bane trilogy, that would be amazing. If it was gritty and, tone is gritty, it's amazing battles between Jedi and Sith, establishes the rule of two, it'd be awesome. I mean, Jedi and Sith wars in live action with the same choreography that we got from the Acolyte, like, sign me up. Sign me up. The closest thing we really even get to something close to that, really, I guess, is the Acolyte in that 5th episode. But other than that, It's Attack of the Clones in the Battle of Geonosis. And it's all just Jedi lightsabers. There's no real Sith going on there. But, yeah. Go back further and establish the Jedi. I'd love that. Well, that's sort of what the Dawn of the Jedi is supposed to do. Yeah. I don't know if they'll be referring to him as the Jedi or Jedi, like they do in Legends, but we'll see. We shall see. Exactly. Look what they did with Rey. They attached the Skywalker name to carry it on. However, it's time to move on. I agree it's time to move on, but the problem is, what we're talking about right now is the Acolyte, as we're celebrating its year anniversary, as it's canceled for its second season, was its first attempt to leave. Even Andor was kind of an attempt to leave, even though it was inside of the Skywalker saga, and it went poorly. Yeah. Not that Andor is bad by any means, and not that the Acolyte's bad either, but from a viewership standpoint, from a business standpoint, it didn't go well. It didn't go well. Yeah. Yeah. I feel like every time they just move on, it just doesn't work. Well, that's why. I think a lot of people, although they think they are open-minded, are not. And anything that isn't, it's almost like the same people that are screaming, we want something new and different, are the same people, when they make something new and different, are screaming, this is not Star Wars. So the response from executives over at Lucasfilm, as they're screaming at their screens going, what do you want? You ask for something new and different. We give you something new and different. You don't like the new and different. You want the old and same, but you won't admit it. That's pretty much what's going on behind the scenes. You say one thing, you think the other thing, you Exactly. Would calling it the Acolyte Season 2 put people off? I hope not. Well, that's the idea. If you were to make another show and call it the Darth Plagueis show, would more people watch it? I mean, yeah. I think Darth Plagueis is more of a legacy character than Chimere and other characters that were involved in the Acolyte. So maybe if you did rename it, it would be easier. But I don't know. It's a very tough thing. Like, there's so many people that want a continuation of the Acolyte, that want Acolyte Season 2. But to look at a title called The Acolyte Season 2 and not be open-minded enough to check it out, it's kind of crazy too. I feel like the KOTOR era would be more successful as it's further back and establishes lore with the Sith ruling the galaxy once before Palpatine, so its ending isn't obvious. I get what you mean. The Acolyte is still too close to the Skywalker saga. I get that. It still has connections to those characters. Ki-Adi-Mundi's in it, which, as we know, was a big deal for a lot of fans. Yoda's in it. Plagueis is in it. So if you go back to the KOTOR era, you still have fan favorite names, but you don't have a connection to the Skywalker saga. Interesting. I like that. Shifting the brand away from the Acolyte would garner an initial interest, but the moment you link it to Season 1, people will get pissed off again. Yeah, probably. So, Mike, how do you move on? How do you get people to look forward to the future rather than the past? Well, interesting. It's a great question, actually. How do you get people looking forward to non-Skywalker saga stories? Well, first and foremost, you have to make a good story, a good movie, a good show. That's numero uno priority. I really don't know. Again, this is why I'm not in charge of Lucasfilm over here. You guys help me out in the chat. What do you do when people all want connections to what they love and know, to Anakin, to Luke, to Leia, to Han, to those characters, to Obi-Wan, to just legacy things from the Skywalker saga. Everybody loves a good connection to those things. They love the stories that feel the same. Although they say they want new and improved or new and different, they lie. How do you do it? How do you successfully go and do that? Ryan Gosling, Starfighter. There's still little known about that movie, so it's hard to judge whether or not that will be a good movie or not, a good decision or not. I don't know. We do have a little bit of news actually regarding the Starfighter movie. Glad you brought it up. Let's see. Yeah, this. So, Mikey Madison, who just won the Academy Award for Best Actress, reportedly turned down the role as the villain in the Sean Levy Starfighter movie. Due to a pay dispute, first of all, which is kind of crazy. She did just win Best Actress, so I'm sure she was asking for a lot of money. And they already got Ryan Gosling, who I'm sure they're paying a lot of money, so they don't want to, do that. But that's sort of a little bit of news there. It does confirm, though, that unless they change it, the villain will be a female, and who knows, what kind of it, is this a new Sith or what? Because this takes place after the sequels. Is it Abeloth? Maybe. I don't know. But that's a little bit of Starfighter news there. Just a tad. Just a tad. But again, I feel like Starfighter is going to come in and people are going to be like, either it's a really, really good movie and people are going to be like, yes, more of this, or it's going to be all right and people are going to be like, no, this isn't connected to the Star Wars I know and love. This isn't Star Wars, Didn't Andor do it? Andor does it, but it doesn't, As much as we can say that Andor doesn't rely on legacy characters, because it doesn't, it's still the Rebellion, the Empire. It's everything that everybody knows and loves about Star Wars from the original trilogy. And it's just leading all based off of that. It's all a story about the Death Star and the Rebellion. You got mentions of Palpatine. You got Krennic in there. You got mentions of Tarkin. All these characters that we know and love. And it's still telling this story about the Rebellion and the Empire and the Death Star. So it's all still very much connected to the Skywalker saga, very much connected to the original trilogy. But because there's no lightsabers, because there's no Force, it's slightly different. Storytelling-wise, it is different, but it's still connected to those things that people know and love. So it's still connected to the Skywalker saga in a very big way. Yeah. To get people interested in non-Skywalker saga storylines, you actually have to celebrate the past of the franchise and kick the feeling of nostalgia into people like Battlefront 2 recently. Yeah. Yeah, actually, that's a great point. Thing with Battlefront 2 being so popular right now is, if anything Star Wars were to drop, because that's the real reason that it became so popular, not just Andor Season 2, but Star Wars Celebration, May the 4th, Tales of the Underworld, all these things piling together for people to want more Star Wars. Just want more. Right now, it really doesn't matter what it is, they just want more. So, yeah, I mean, stuff like Battlefront 2, if they make a Battlefront 3, might actually help. Because if more people are playing Star Wars, are talking about Star Wars, are enjoying Star Wars, then maybe when a Star Wars movie comes out that's even different from all the rest that's come before, but it's still in the Star Wars universe, people will give it a chance. And if it's really, really good, well, then they'll go and be like, this is really, really good. And that's where you get success. I like it. We need a Revan movie? No, we need a Revan saga. Like Anakin is 1 through 6, I guess 1 through 9. It's just his grandchildren. But Anakin's story is told 1 through 6. Revan needs at least 6 movies to tell his story. At least. Yeah. Oh yeah, Revenge of the Sith re-release too. Yeah, for sure. For sure. Yeah. So do we need more Jedi? Well, going back to do the origins of the Jedi definitely helps. Because if that's done correctly, and you got 25,000 years before anything, origins of the Jedi. how this whole damn thing began, with James Mangold and Mr. Willie Maughan at the helm, it could be a massive success, especially if you're getting some really great new characters, because then you can really tie it all together. Even 25,000 years apart, stories still feel connected. You got Tython and the Seeing Stone in Mando Season 2. And now, with the opportunity of seeing Tython at its peak, or Tython when it's being first created with the Jedi Temples and the Seeing Stone, you can get it in its prime during the Dawn of the Jedi time period. Same can be said about like Ahch-To and Jedha. Like all these ancient Jedi temples that we see in Star Wars in the Skywalker saga can be brand new temples in their heyday in the Dawn of the Jedi, which would be really cool. Yeah. Well, we haven't gotten a Battlefront 3 announcement yet. No. And I don't think we will. I mean, not anytime soon, at least. Again, I think it's smart for them to just go, we're making Battlefront 3. It's currently in the process of being made. Don't expect it for a couple years at least, but it's still just being made. Give fans something to look forward to, something to hope for. Because when you look at these numbers, check this out. When you look at these numbers for Battlefront 2 right now, they're not just peaking, they're remaining high. Look at this. Not only is Battlefront 2 the most downloaded game on PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5 in the month of May, above all the rest, all these other games, from GTA, Minecraft, Last of Us, Red Dead, Mortal Kombat, all these games, Battlefront 2 is the most downloaded one. But also, it's still over the peak of all time. So currently right now, this is what we're looking at here. This is 2021, or this is, yeah, these are both 2021. It's every 6 months. 2021, 2022, 2023, 2024, 2025, and this huge rocket up is what's been these last 2 or 3 weeks. And it's staying up here. It's dipped a little bit, but it's still staying really, really high and higher than ever before, which is incredible. So the hype for this game is died down a little bit, but it's still higher than it's ever been before. So I think the hype for Star Wars around a project, or when a project is being released, is a big deal as well. Yeah, absolutely. Oh yeah, then there's this. Sorry, Yord. Yeah, I mean, talk about dark. Talk about dark. Yeah. Okay. Where was I? Yeah. Jessica, what's up? How we doing? I'd start with a Jedi Order show led by Rey and Finn, set years after its rebuilding. Focusing on the Padawans learning to build stakes over build the stakes over 3 to 4 seasons, then graduate them into movies, expanding the narrative. Well, that seems like what they're doing with the Mandoverse. They're almost using Disney Plus, as they should be, as experimental grounds. So The Mandalorian was a massive success, although it was a huge risk at the time. And now they're bringing that to the big screen. So I agree with you. I think they should do that too. Where, can I get some good cuts follow orders in the chat, please? Bum-ba. So where they've been doing that with The Mandalorian, they should be doing that with other projects. When we go to the Old Republic, you should make shows in sort of a Game of Thrones type thing where it's all connected with all these different families and, I guess, not families, but different Sith and Mandalorians and Jedi, all these different groups fighting against each other, and then bring it into the movie theaters. Make this big climactic event that should be seen on the big screen. Yeah. For sure. Yeah. I feel bad for every generation of kids who lives through anything new in Star Wars, and adults telling them, well, what they watch / reading isn't Star Wars. Yeah. I feel bad for kids who love the Acolyte and High Republic. Well, that's the issue is every fan who comes into Star Wars has a very strong opinion on whatever brought them into Star Wars. So if you grew up on the originals, you love the originals, and anybody who ever talks bad about the originals, you're going to really want to fight them. Same with the prequel trilogy. Same with kids now with the sequels, and same with The Mandalorian and kids growing up with the Clone Wars and all that stuff. So kids growing up now with all this stuff, yeah, it's pretty hard to be a young Star Wars fan when you're coming into the fandom going, oh, I like that Acolyte show. And everyone's like, no, you can't do that. No. it's not very easy to be a fan of that show when you get a lot of crap for it. Yeah. No. Absolutely. Yeah. True. Rom, what's up? How we doing? Okay, I wanted to do this kind of cool thing before. I mean, we got a little more time here, but so Star Wars posted this, and I want to just do this. We got to do this. I mean, come on. Quiz. Which bounty hunter are you? This is StarWars.com if you guys want to do it too. I'll send the link in the Discord. If you guys are not yet in the Discord, there's a link in the description below to a Discord called The People Who Love Star Wars. Go join it immediately. But I'll send this link to the Discord after the stream ends. But after Tales of the Underworld came out, you can now take a quiz to see which bounty hunter you are. So let's do this together. What's your favorite Star Wars planet? Dothamir's pretty good. Trandoshia? No. Mandalore? Camino? Ooh. Duro? No. Tatooine? Okay, I'm thinking between these four. The four on the outside. Dothamir, Camino, Mandalore, Tatooine. What do we think, Chad? What are we thinking, Chad? Let's do it for me. So what do you think my favorite Star Wars planet is, Chad? What do we think? I'm kind of thinking Mandalore, honestly. I'm kind of thinking Mandalore. What do we think, Chad? What do we think, Chad? Mandalore? Dothamir? Naboo? Well, Naboo's not an option here. Naboo is not an option. All right, I'm choosing Mandalore. What ship would you fly? What ship would you most want to fly? Okay. Hound's Tooth, the Fire Spray Classic Protocol Craft, the Justifier, Razor Crests, okay. A customized ship, whatever's on hand. I want a customized ship. Come on. What's your favorite genre? Oh my God, it's Max Rebo. Oh, yeah. I don't see any jizz music on here, chat. Metal, country, synth, rock, rock. What would your approach to bounty hunting be? Ooh, cabin. With precision, stealth, full. I don't think I'm stealth. No, I'm too loud. Classic bounty hunting, mix of methods, the long game. The long game. I kind of like the long game. What do we think, chat? We're on year 5 of this channel. We're in the long game right now. We're going long game. What is your bounty hunting weapon of choice? Oh, interesting. Blaster rifle, jetpack, flamethrower. Ooh, flamethrower. Flamethrower, blaster pistol, sniper rifle, or lightsabers. Oh my God, that's an easy one. What's your favorite hobby? Getting some exercise. Kicking back with friends, sharpshooting, collecting apparel, contemplating vengeance, and practicing martial arts. Well, I mean, we're sitting here today. The people who love Star Wars are sitting here today hanging out with friends, so let's do that. Who's your go-to bounty hunting partner? Not Orsing, not Quinlan Voss. Boba Fett? Maybe. Maybe. A former bounty? No. The blaster's all I need? I work better alone. Interesting. I'm thinking either Boba Fett, a blaster's all I need, or I work better alone. What do we think here, Jen? I mean, I stream alone. I work better alone. Han Solo. Who would be your most troublesome bounty target? Luke Skywalker, obviously. I mean, he'd be pretty hard to... Actually, Ahsoka. Ahsoka's in a different galaxy. That's pretty hard to find. I mean, come on. Right? Ahsoka it is. Cad Bane again. What would you spend your credits on after turning your bounty in? Okay. Upgrading your ship, replacing lost weaponry, a nice long vacation. That sounds nice. Passage off planet, a new hat. I don't wear hats. Unlimited blue macaroons. Oh, that sounds pretty bomb. Either a nice long vacation or unlimited blue macaroons. What do we think, chat? What do we think, chat? What do we think, chat? Passage off planet is lame. A new hat. I don't wear hats. Replace lost equipment. Upgrade your ship, I guess, but my ship's already awesome. I don't need upgrades. Vacay? Vacay? Let's go vacay. How do you celebrate a job well done? I give myself some time off, spend time with friends. It's party time. I like to have a good meal. Love a good meal. Some music and a good book. Lame. Just kidding. Kidding. I like to relax. It's party time. It's party time. I'm a Sage Ventress. Let's go. A Sage Ventress. You've been through some big defining moments that have gotten you to where you are today. But there's been some reinvention along the way too. But it's led you to better things, including better understanding of yourself. You're ready to tackle anything thrown your way. That's awesome. Sage Ventress, let's go. All right, I'm going to send the link to the Discord right after the live stream. Actually, I'll send it right now. Copy. If you're not yet in the Discord yet, go join that Discord. Let's see. Boom. And then you can go take the quiz yourself. Okay. Okay. You got the Mandalorian? Nice. Nice. Okay. Let me end this poll. 69% of you, nice, do want an Acolyte Season 2, which is pretty dang cool to see. I definitely want an Acolyte Season 2. I mean, that continuation of that story, getting to see more of hang on. Getting to see more of this. That's it. I'm watching The Acolyte tonight. Yeah, getting more of that. I'm totally down. Mark me as down. Oh, and this was the other thing about Battlefront 3 that I wanted to show you guys. Even Universal Pictures, the official Universal picture from the UK, which is promoting its new How to Train Your Dragon movie, is saying Battlefront 3. Waiting for Battlefront 3. Crazy. Okay, but that was sort of that. Yeah. Acolyte members watch party when? Ooh, we should do that soon. I don't know. I'll let you know. Yeah, that's a great idea, though. That's a great idea. Okay. All right, but I do have to get on out of here. I got to go finish up the short for today. So watch out for that short later on today. Watch out for something coming up this weekend. Of course, we have a live stream on Saturday. Actually, that live stream might be later on in the day because we usually do 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It might be 4 or around that time because I do have something in the afternoon on Saturday. So watch out for that. Maybe a different time on Saturday. Smash a freaking like on the stream if you have not already. How many likes do we have, chat? Am I going to be upset? 66! Although I like that number. I mean, come on. Let's get some more likes on this shit. Come on, chat. Come on, chat. Huge shoutouts to Darth Plagueis Lives, Kiki, Alexander, 50 Thunder for the very generous super chats and memberships. I appreciate it. Smash a freaking like on your way out. Kathleen Kennedy being replaced by Dave Filoni and Carrie Beck seems highly likely at this point. We just don't know. It's more a matter of when. Not how, but when. And the Acolyte Season 2, well, we're still holding out hope. But until then, hope you have a great rest of your evening. And smash a freaking like on the stream. And may the force be with you. Always. Oh, yeah. What a great stream. What a great show. You guys are the absolute best. I appreciate you all so much more than you will ever know. This was quite the stream, if I do say so myself. Some crazy stuff going on in the future of Star Wars. Getting this leadership shift, I think, will only be great news for fans. I mean, obviously, you're going to have some fans that complain about it, but even still, I think it's going to be great news. So, only time will tell. This will actually come to fruition, but we'll see. We shall see. But go join that Discord if you want to keep the conversation going, and go take that quiz as well. Let me know who you got in the Discord. But until then, until next time, hope you have a great rest of your evening, great rest of your lives, and good night, everybody.